Happy Tuesday, the 9th of April, Tuesday, the second week of Easter. It's nice to be with you. I am Father Bill Hill, priest at Holy Spirit Catholic Community in Rock Springs, Wyoming. I will share with you a reflection on the daily readings. The readings are linked down below. Click the link, read the readings prayerfully, and then turn off the screen. Spend some time with God before you move on to other things. We have readings from the Acts of the Apostles and from the Gospel of John. Now, in Easter, last Monday, we started Acts of the Apostles, chapter 2, moving through. And now today, because we missed yesterday because of the Annunciation, today we're going to start moving through John's Gospel. We don't get the signs, the works of Jesus that are generally at the beginning of the chapters. We get a lot more of the teaching of Jesus. So right now we're starting in chapter 3. I think at the end of the week we'll get a sign, the miracle of the multiplication of the loaves and the fish, and then we'll get the bread of life discourse in John 6. So a lot of teaching stuff in John's Gospel over the course of the next 40 days of Easter season, okay? So, Acts of the Apostles. We have one of the rosy images. St. Paul is, St. Luke, the author of the Acts of the Apostles, is a great depictor of the golden age of the early church. And he does it a number of times. We actually already missed one. Last week, the lectionary doesn't include it. We're talking about devoting themselves to all of the good things of the Lord. Today we hear they are of one heart and one mind. They hold all things in common. There's no needy person among them, because they all take care of each other. As you pray with that, what's the hardest for you? For a lot of us as Americans, it could be the possession stuff, right? Like, I'll give, but I still want mine, right? Like, private property is a huge value for us. So as you read about the early church, maybe to marvel in the sharing of possessions. For me, and I've shared with you guys before, obedience was the hardest of the promises of priesthood to agree to. Even harder than celibacy, even harder than a lifetime of service and prayer. Obedience, right? Someone else telling me what to do. One heart, one mind. That can be a challenge, right? And of course, whenever we talk about this, we want to make sure that we understand that this is unity, not uniformity. That still the great diversity of the early church was present. Each of them having different calls, different gifts, different personalities, different ways of being. But they were still able to be one heart and one mind. They lived together well in unity. But for me, a lot of times, like, to be part of that cohesive whole can be a challenge. And I think that's one of the great challenges of intentional community even to this day. As you read this, what's the challenge for you? And maybe you ask that the Lord would give you that grace to be a little bit more intentional about community life, about sharing of possessions or time or talents, holding all things in common, right? The psalm response, the Lord is King, in glory he is enthroned, a great psalm of praise. Maybe it helps us to remember that all of this earthly stuff falls in after keeping God as greatest priority. Okay, the gospel. Hey, Catholics, have you been born again? That's a question that generally makes us pretty uncomfortable, right? But it comes from these passages of the interaction of Jesus with Nicodemus. And it is important for you to be born again. And this is something that we as Catholics can miss. We can be like, hey, I've been baptized. I'm good. And we might miss the other side of it. It's baptism and it's holy faith. It's baptism, but it's also living into the grace of baptism, of conversion and renewal of life, and being made new, right? Like, we weren't baptized as infants so that we could grow into nasty, crabby adults who have huge bank accounts and no concern for the poor and no concern for the marginalized, and we're mean and judgmental. Like, we are all about being made new in Jesus Christ. That the heart of Jesus might be our heart, right? That faith and passion for justice and concern for the marginalized and the folks that are looked down upon and the poor, like, these are our preoccupations, and we are made new in Jesus Christ. So again, to ask that question, like, have you been born again? And a Catholic answer might be, to quote St. Paul from Philippians, I'm working out my salvation in fear and trembling. Or to say something like, every single day I try to live into the conversion of Jesus Christ, something like that, right? But I just invite us to wrestle with the challenge of Jesus. You have to be born from above. To pray for that grace of renewal and conversion that was first given to us in the waters of baptism. And to really pray that it would not be our own strength, our own ability, our own project that we're doing, but that indeed that there might be openness to the Spirit that blows where it wills, and that we might be made new in Jesus Christ, new creations in this age, in preparation for the fullness of eternity in the resurrection. All right, friends, what strikes you? What do you need to pray with? What's the most important stuff for you? Read those readings prayerfully, turn off the screen, spend some time with God before you move on to other things. Happy Tuesday, y'all. God bless.